The Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'd like to congratulate Chris on becoming one of our members.
Thank you very much.
Are there any more agendas?
Huh? I think, yeah, there's a couple. You want to get them done first?
Get them done?
Yeah, but
I just thought if there was an agenda.
I sent it to your
Oh.
phone.
Okay, let me go to my phone.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
If it's helpful, I can print them out
Yeah.
before
No,
each meeting.
no, you're good. I can go right here. I just didn't know it was there.
Yeah, it's there.
I can't see it, Jim. You look.
S
Okay.
B A D A M I L A W. Law. Gmail.
While we're doing that, Mr. Chairman, could you just identify the members of your commission who are
Or,
here
no,
this
no,
evening?
just say it again.
yes,
S.
Chris who was here, this Paulette and Karen and myself.
Thank you very much.
S. B A D
And
A M I L A W. Let me see. Let me see. It's going to your MSN account?
I think it went to my spam.
Okay.
Because it's my first time. That's okay. No, now I know where to go.
I also have this spare copy that I don't need.
It
Look at
had to
that.
go to my spam because.
If you're willing to share it,
I am.
Madam Vice Chair, there you go.
Here you go. You won't be in my spam after today, though. It was,
Yep,
that's
there
what
you
it
go.
was. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you want to run the meeting, or would you like me to?
no, well, I'll turn it over to you for
All right.
tonight.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Scott Badami. I'm here as a lawyer who may be seeking appointment tonight by this board. Should this board so design, you have to have a solicitor for 2024. And the question would be, are there any nominations for our
She's here
solicitor?
now.
Just look into it here.
Hi, Chris. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Scott Badami.
Hi.
Very
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Sorry I'm
How are
late.
you?
Oh, fine. Farm show was great.
I have a whole tour tonight.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We just got started with the Pledge of Allegiance. We introduced our new board member. Now the 5 of you are here, which is fantastic. The next item on the agenda is any 2024 appointments, and if the board wishes to appoint a solicitor for 2024.
Okay.
All right, I make a motion that we appoint Scott for 2024.
I second.
Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. It's fantastic to be here and to work with you. I very, very much look forward to it and appreciate your confidence in me. As a matter of introduction, Chris and I are former law partners at Fox Rothschild.
Oh, cool.
He was in my office from time to time, and it's great to see him in another role.
Thank you. Small world.
It's a good small world story. Prior to this meeting, I believe the board received a copy of the minutes from your December 2023 meeting and would seek the approval of those minutes. If people have had a chance to review those, if there are any questions, any comments, we can make those. Alternatively, I would take a motion to approve the minutes.
I do approve them. I make a motion that we approve the
I
minutes.
Second?
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. The minutes are approved. At this point, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Lieutenant O'Brien for an update from the Plymouth Police Department.
Okay, so for this civil service meeting tomorrow is Officer Jeff Conrad's last day with the Plymouth Township Police Department after 27 years. It'll be his last day reporting. He has what we used to call the military terminal leave, so he will be on the books until, I believe, March 12th, but it'll be his last day of reporting for duty. And he's going to be recognized at his house with a small procession to show our respect. He spent the majority of his career in the Highway Patrol Unit. He spent a good portion of his team went with the tactical team when Plymouth Township had their own tactical team before we went regional. And he is really known throughout this tri-state area as a motorcycle instructor. Like really top-notch, respected, probably one of the top 2 or 3 in this tri-state area. So obviously we wish him well. At the last council meeting, Officer Severson was recognized for 20 years of service. He's got a couple more years to go with only 20 years, but he's doing well. I want to mention that the chief had initially stated that he was going to come before this board, as he tends to do early each year, and go over the previous year's annual report and what his vision is for the police department moving forward. With the appointment of a new solicitor and the reorganization in February, he thought it'd be best not to muddy the water so much, and that he would request that he come before this board at the March meeting instead of squeezing too much into the February. So he is going to do that. We're in the process of gathering those stats right now. The deadline was the 23rd from the staff, January 23rd from the staff who's compiling those reports for us. But I can tell you that every major category that we track has increased. We have about, and these are rough numbers, probably about 1,500 more calls, and we made over 1,200 arrests last year. And the other individual stats that we track will all be presented before this board, and the chief will tell you what his vision is moving forward. And I think the last thing I have is, since this is on the record, I wouldn't want to leave this meeting without honoring Tom Spears. He was a solicitor for this board for a long time. Tom was a good guy, is a good guy. He was a good guy to this board. He was on council before he was on this board. To the best of my knowledge, I think he's been involved in local government in Plymouth Townships since probably about 1988 or so, in one form or another. And he was always there, at least when I had questions. Most specifically, during the hiring process, there's a lot that I don't know, and I don't like to act like I know things that I don't. But I didn't want to leave this meeting without honoring his contribution to this township, including this building that we're sitting in right now. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions if anybody has anything for me.
How's Officer Kehoe doing in the academy?
He's doing well. I'm very close with Jeff Novak, who was a lieutenant in White Marsh. So he keeps me updated. I think just this week I got another email, just a quick email. He's a good guy. He's doing well. Just send me that quick message. Officer Kehoe, for those who don't know, through this civil service board acting promptly and through council's approval, they did something which they don't normally do, is they hired Officer Conrad's replacement before Officer Conrad actually leaves. And that was so that we could get Officer Kehoe in the police academy. So he's probably about halfway done. I believe he has a graduation date in March.
Okay.
So he is about halfway done, and it's going to get us about a total of about 7 months ahead of getting into this class. So that's going to help us out too. I mentioned it at every meeting since we've hired 4 officers at the last go-around so far. 3 of them were already certified, prior military, prior law enforcement, so they went to the street right away. Officer Kehoe was prior military, but he was not Pennsylvania law enforcement, so he needs to go through the academy. And all 3 of the officers who hit the street right away are already on their own, and they're now counting as a body on the street. And they are as good as any 3 officers we've ever hired recently. And if I had concerns, I would let this board know. Well, I'd never, but they are as good as anybody we've hired, all 3 of them.
Present company accepted.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
we still need more.
Yeah, that I think will be part of what the chief wants to talk about before this board at the March meeting when he presents the stats. But to be fair, it would probably be better to have the complete picture of 2023. But I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, no, I made a suggestion that I would go before council and, put them in a couple situations that we as police officers had. It's like, if you only have 7 officers on the street at one time, and you get an auto accident, which a lot of people don't understand. First of all, you need 2 officers there. One to take information, and the other one to direct traffic. And then what happens is, if while that's going on, another incident happens, then you got to send officers, and eventually, if you have a really, really bad time, all the officers can go, and what happens when you get another call? You got nobody. You have to go to another police department to try to get somebody to help you out. Instead of having, like years ago when Nick was on, they suggested that they did a study, and they said there should be 54 to 56 officers. And this is like 15, 20 years ago, and now things are getting so much heavier, and
I don't disagree with anything you said,
council don't understand because they're not involved with the police department like that.
Well, I'm not a politically correct guy. The only thing I would hesitate about is no formal request has been made to council about like a potential increase in officer requests. So it's not like anything's been denied. So I don't want to get ahead that like they've said no to something that hadn't even been asked yet.
Okay.
And I mean that's the chief's job to work that out with council. But the last time around, we were doing a lot of replacement bodies, but through the work of this board, for the first time in about 25, 27 years, we actually had our complement of officer raised by 2. So it wasn't like we were just replacing people. We replaced people and we went up by 2. And that was the last time the council was formally asked. So,
How many police are on total?
I believe our accepted complement right now is 48.
Okay.
And it always gets difficult. We had officers that were on long-term illness last year, and some that were out for well over a year on an injury on duty situation. These new officers got hired, but they don't really help your manpower out for the first 9 months or so. We're just now getting to the point. So, 2023 we were definitely running short. Then you have like the end of the year with people who have seniority who are using their time off that they're authorized.
Right.
So as we head into January, things have stabilized a little bit, but as I mentioned before, the calls for service are up, the arrests are up, all measurable stats are up, and that's all going to get presented. And I know the chief every year comes in and gets this board's input. At the same time he's speaking with council, he speaks to this board. But nobody said no to anything yet.
Are those 48 all full-time officers, or is there?
We have no part-time officers.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And I mean, this may be more work that I don't want to put on anybody, but in terms of the other townships around here, departments, what are they seeing in terms of the last 2 or 3 years in terms of adding officers? Is that something? I mean, if we're seeing that Whitpain and White Marsh are adding significant numbers and we're not, versus or the other way around, I'm just curious.
Well, with Norristown's its own when it comes to this area, this immediate area. To be completely honest with you, East Norton, Whitpain, and White Marsh, even though in Conshohocken, if you look at how many arrests they make a year, how many calls they respond to, they're not even in our division, so to speak. It's interesting how geographic these things can get, but our shopping districts are a big part of that.
Do we have like peer groups, townships that are roughly the same size of ours or same
They are.
socioeconomic as us, and say, township, I don't know, King of Prussia, maybe,
Yeah.
and they have,
Montgomery Township's a good comparison, King of Prussia, yeah. Part of what we do each year is we track calls, certain individual type crimes. The other thing we do is we reach out to the other departments and we ask them to provide similar stats. Because Plymouth Township started doing this annual report back around 1990, 1991. I believe it was way ahead of the curve at that point in time. Since then, most departments do it, and I know last year we had good cooperation from a lot of departments, and we have, the chief, within the last 10 days, has made that same formal request to gather the surrounding department stats. But I know last year in all of Montgomery County, when you arrest somebody, they either have to get arraigned, which is for moderate to serious crimes, or they can be released. And last year, Plymouth Township had the second most arrests where people had to be arraigned in Montgomery County. The only jurisdiction that beat us was Pottstown, and they beat us out by, I want to say by like 10, maybe 15. So, yeah, and arresting people is a whole other manpower.
Power heavy.
Yeah. But yeah, so people, this is a great community. But I think with the shopping districts, which is a big portion of our issue, the shopping districts, the hotels, I think people would be surprised to know of all the jurisdictions. I'm talking about all the jurisdictions: Norristown, Abington, Cheltenham, Lower Merion, Upper Merion. We had the second most on in Pottstown. So, but we do track those stats, and we're a year behind on them right now about calls for service or arrest and things of that
Thank you.
nature.
Plus you guys got to transport
You're right.
transport the arrestees to another department.
Well, right now we do while
Because of the
we're
building,
construction. Yeah. We're hoping that ends.
Yeah.
That was supposed to end January 10th, where our cell block was back up and running. Construction is construction. The new
Sure.
date is February 4th, but White Marsh was formally asked and formally agreed to keep helping us out with housing prisoners until our cell
Yeah,
block
that's
is back
still
up.
2 more officers got to transport a prisoner.
Yeah. Oh,
You know, so
I
that's
do
2
know.
more off the street.
Yeah. And we're actually going to White Marsh, which is the opposite way of the county prison where we have to end up with. But that's construction right now. But
Yeah.
all these things out of the manpower,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Thank you, Lieutenant O'Brien. I appreciate that very much. Any old or new business from the board that they wish to raise at this time?
I actually have a question. In the regulations, it talks about an annual report, and that the commission shall make an annual report to the township council containing a brief summary of its work during the year and full accounting for any expenditures of public monies. The annual report shall be available for public inspection. I've never seen one of those.
I can tell you that I'm aware of this clause, where the solicitor was supposed to come with an annual report and present it. I have never seen it either, and I'm not saying it wasn't done. I'm only saying it's never been presented to me. It has been brought up, and people have been reminded that it needs to be done. But in my position, that's about as far as.
Okay.
So this is what we're going to do.
Okay.
I will communicate with the solicitor for the township, and we will review the specific code provision that you have identified. If indeed it is a we shall do it. And that's the
Okay.
way it's going to be. If council decides they do not wish a report, we can ask them to amend the code or give us a waiver. But other than that, we're going to end up doing it.
Okay.
Is that a written report, or is there an oral, like, show up one meeting and give the state of the commission?
I read it as written.
I interpret that to be written also.
Okay.
Here's the report of what the Civil Service Commission did for the previous year.
Okay. Thank you.
But I will confirm, it'll be on my to-do list, and so I'll report back to the group.
I do have a question. I don't know if we need to go into executive session for it.
All right, let's recess the meeting for a moment, and we'll devolve into executive. We are back on the record at the January Plymouth Civil Service Commission meeting. We just had an executive session to discuss a matter of legal compliance. Ms. Mabry, I believe you had another question for Lieutenant O'Brien.
Not necessarily a question for Lieutenant O'Brien, but more an expectation of what I interpret this board meeting. I know that in the past, we would get an email saying there's not going to be any board meeting this month because the chief doesn't have anything to bring to the board. But I think what's lost there is there might be a member of the public who wants to come before the board. And I think that we should all have the expectation that we actually meet monthly, whether or not the chief or Lieutenant O'Brien has anything to add. But there might be someone from the public who wants to meet with the board or have something to say to the board.
Can I say something on that? Which
Yeah.
I learned. You're going to be in charge now, just like I was in charge, not knowing that it's your decision. Once you get appointed, take my place, it's your position to say when the meeting happens, right, and what goes on, right? It's not up to the solicitor. It's your responsibility as the chair.
Well, I just think, again, the expectation for this whole board, regardless of whatever position we're in, have the expectation that we meet monthly. Again, I think the purpose of the board is not only to address whatever issues are going on in the police department, but if someone from the public wants to address the board, just like they want to attend a council meeting, that meeting happens when it's supposed to happen, if that makes sense.
Very much so.
No, I agree.
And maybe since the report the chief is going to give in March, and we rarely get any public comment, maybe it can be advertised in a way, because that report he did for us was, the public should see it, you know.
We put that report, ma'am. We announced that it's out. We sent it directly to members of the community that need, like civic organizations. We put it on our township webpage, and we also put it on our Facebook page, and we announced that it's out. And I think when it is out, again, I know people listen to these recordings, even if they don't always comment. We should announce it in here that it's out and where people can see it. But whether the stats are good or not good, or where an officer made a mistake, I agree with you 100% that this information should be got. Every effort possible should be made to get information that is public out to the public.
When the chief was doing community meetings on different topics, and people came out, and then people came on Zoom, and I thought it was well received, and maybe that's an opportunity that somehow that's promoted that way, because those were excellent meetings.
That was, we actually have a meeting on January 15th, the chief and I, to discuss getting those type of meetings up and moving again. COVID, and again, we can't, just like we talked before, we can't blame everything on COVID, because COVID has, ran its course that way a little while ago now. But that's what he was. I think he's probably doing meetings almost quarterly with different groups. But COVID kind of shut that down, and we literally have a meeting on January 15th to discuss topics of concern and what communities we should reach out to meet. But I agree, it's time to get that moving again. More importantly, the chief agrees.
I thought those were excellent, well received by the community, and then his report can be shared at one State of the Police Department or whoever decide to call it, and I think people will come if we push it.
I think it's an excellent idea.
So I think the general consensus of this board is that we should plan on monthly meetings for 2024, which leads into the next agenda item. Our reorganization meeting will be next month. We'll announce, the exact schedule, although we all believe it will be the second Thursday. What I would like the board just to formally decide upon is the date of the February meeting, which is our reorganization meeting. It can be either Monday, February 5th, as the code provides, or if this board chooses to make it our regular Thursday meeting. It is your decision with respect to when you'd like to meet. If you seek a recommendation, I will give it, but I would like to make that decision tonight. We can then do the remainder of the year at our reorganization meeting.
I make a motion that we do the reorganization meeting on Thursday, February 8th, which falls in line with our regular meeting dates, because the first Monday in February for reorganization would be the 5th, and it's just 3 days later for Thursday, the 8th. So I would make a motion to just do the reorganization on the
second
8th.
I'm fine with that.
Let's call the question. All those in favor of our reorganization meeting being Thursday, February 8th, 2024 at 6:30 in this room, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Our reorganization meeting will be Thursday, February 8th. At that time, the board will announce the meeting dates for the rest of the year. Pursuant to the discussion we just had, each of our meetings will have a public comment opportunity, and that's this time right now. Should any member of the public come, we will always hear from members of the public for a reasonable time. And they can come talk about anything that is pertinent to our business. We don't have any members of the public here tonight, but in each of our meetings, we will make that offer an opportunity. At this point, I would offer the board, if any board member has closing comments this evening. If not, I would take a motion to adjourn, and thank you very, very much for coming.
Make a motion.
So moved. Second. We'll see everybody next month.
Cool.